He was swimming so close to Nita now that his sides almost touched hers, and she pulled her tail and fins in tight and shrank away from the razory hide, not daring to move otherwise. Then Ed woke up and broke the circle, gliding lazily outward and away as if nothing had happened.
"But, Sprat, the matter of my loves, or their lack, is hardly what's bothering you."
"No," she burst out bitterly. "Love! I've never had a chance to. And now...
"Then you're well cast for the Silent Lord's part," Ed said, his voice sounding far away. "How does the line go? Not old enough to love as yet, but old enough to die, indeed. That has always been the Silent Lord's business, to sacrifice love for life, instead of, as in lesser songs, the other way around."
Ed trailed off, paused to snap up a sea bass that passed him by too slowly. When his eyes were more or less sane again and the water had carried the blood away, Ed said, "Is it truly so much to you, Sprat? Have you truly had no time to love?" "Mom and Dad," Nita thought ruefully. "Daireen. That's not love. I don't love Daireen. Do I?" She hardened her heart and said, "No, Pale One. Not that way. No one. That way."
"Well, then," said the Master Shark, "the song will be sung from the heart, it seems. You will still offer the sacrifice?"
"I don't want to."
"Answer the question, Sprat."
It was a long while before Nita spoke.
"I'll do what I said I would," she said at last.
The notes of the song whispered away into the water like the last notes of a dirge. She was glad Ed said nothing for a while, for her insides gripped and churned as she finally found out what real, grown-up fear was. Not the kind that happens suddenly, that leaves you too busy with action to think about being afraid, but the kind that she had been holding off by not officially deciding, the kind that swims up as slowly as a shark circling, letting you see it and realize in detail what's going to happen to you.
"I am big enough to take a humpback in 2 bites," Ed said into her silence, "and there is no need for me to be leisurely about it. You will speak to the heart of the sea without having to say too much to me on the way."
Nita looked up at him in amazement.
"But I thought you didn't believe. I mean, you'd never—"
"I am no wizard, Nita," Ed said. "The sea doesn't speak to me as it does to you. I will never experience those high, wild joys the blue sings of, the sea that burns, the voices. The only voices I hear cry out from water that burns with blood. But might I not sometimes wonder what other joys there are, and wish I might feel them, too?"
The dry, remote pain in his voice astonished her. And Nita thought abruptly of that long line of titles in the commentaries in her manual, as if only one shark had ever been master. Sharks don't die of natural causes, she thought. Could it be that all these years there has been just one master? And all around him, people die, and he can't. And wants to. And so he understands how it is to want to get out of something and be stuck with it. Nita was terribly moved. She wasn't sure why. She swam close to the Pale One's huge head for a moment and glided side by side with him, matching his course and the movements of his body. "I wish I could help," she said.
"As if the master could feel distress," Ed said with good-natured scorn. The wound in his voice had healed without a scar.
"And as if someone else might want to end it," Nita said, sarcastic, but gentle about it. Ed was silent for a long while. I mean, it's dumb to suffer, Nita said, rather desperately, into that silence. But if you have to do it, you might as well intend it to do someone some good. In silence, they swam a few lengths more through the darkening water, while Nita's fear began to build in her again, and one astonished part of her mind shouted at her, "You're running around talking about doing nice things for someone who's going to kill you? You're crazy." Ed spoke at last. "It's well said. And we will cause it to be well made, this sacrifice. You, young and never loving. I, old and never loved." Calm, utterly calm, that voice. "Such a song the sea will never have seen." "Init?" came a questioning note through the water from southward of Ambrose. Sri's voice. "It's almost your time." "I have to go," Nita said. "Ed." "Silent Lord." She had no idea why she was saying it. "I'm sorry." "This once, I think," the passionless voice said. "So am I. Go on, Sprat. I will not miss my cue." Nita looked at him. Opaque eyes, depthless, merciless, lingered on her as Ed curved past. "Coming," Nita sang in Sri's direction, loud, and tore off southward. No pale shadow followed. The next few hours, while the water darkened further, ran together for Nita in a blur of music and annoying repetitions and words that would have been frightening if she hadn't been too busy to be frightened. And something was growing in her, slowly, but getting stronger and stronger, an odd elation. She sang on, not questioning it, riding its tide and hoping it would last through what she had to do. Again and again, with the other celebrants listening and offering suggestions, she rehearsed what would be the last things she would ever say. "See, hear me now, and take my words and make them ever law." "Right, now swim off a little. No one hears this part. Upward and toward the center where the peak will be. Right there." "Must I accept the barren gift, learn death, and lose my mastery? Then let them know whose blood and breath will take the gift and set them free, whose is the voice and whose the mind to set at naught the well-sung game, when finned finality arrives and calls me by my secret name. Not old enough to love as yet, but old enough to die indeed. Oh, Lord, the death fear bites my throat and heart, fanged cousin to the pale one's breed. But past the fear lies life for all, perhaps for me, and past my dread, past loss of mastery and life, the sea shall yet give up her dead." And then the paleness came to circle over her, bringing with it the voice that chanted all on one soft hissing note, again and again, always coming back to the same refrain. "Master have I none, nor seek. Bring the ailing, bring the weak, bring the wounded ones to me. They shall feed my mastery." That strange excitement was still growing in Nita. She let it drive her voice as she would have used it to drive a wizardry, so that her song grew into something that shook the water and almost drowned out even Ed's voice, weaving about it and turning mere hunger to desire, disaster to triumph. "Lone power, I accept your gift. Freely I make death part of me. By my acceptance it is bound into the lives of all the sea. Yet what I do now binds to it a gift I feel of equal worth. I take death with me, out of time, and make of it a path, a birth. Let the teeth come. As they tear me, they tear your ancient hate for I. So rage, proud power,
fail again, and see my blood teach death to die."
The last time she sang it, Nita hung unmoving, momentarily exhausted, for the moment aware of nothing but Kit's anxious eyes staring at her from outside the circle, and the stir of water on her skin as the pale ones circled above her. "That's right," Sri said at last, very quietly. "And then—" She fell silent and swam out of the circle of celebrants. Behind her, very slowly, first the blue and then the rest of the whales began to sing the dirge for the Silent Lord, confirmation of the transformation of death and the new defeat of the lone power. Nita headed for the surface to breathe. She came up into early evening. Westward, sunset was burning itself into scarlet embers. Eastward, a moon lacking only the merest shard of light to be full, lifted swollen and amber through the surface haze. Northward, the bright and dark and bright again of Ambrose light glittered on the uneasily shifting waves, with the opening and closing red eyes of Manhattan skyscraper lights low beyond it. And southward, gazing back at them, the red-orange glow of Arcturus sparkled above the water, here and there striking an answering spark off the crest or hollow of some wave. Nita lay there gasping in the wave-wash, and let the water rock her. "Heaven knows," she thought, "I need somebody to do it." Beside her, Kit surfaced in a great wash of water and blew spectacularly, slightly forward, as sperms do. "Neats." "Hi," she said. She knew it was inane, but she could think of no other way to keep Kit from starting what he was going to start, except by saying dumb things. "Neats," he said. "We're out of time. They're going to start the descent as soon as everybody's had a chance to rest a little and the protective spells are set." "Right," she said, misunderstanding him on purpose. "We better get going, then." She tilted her head down and started to dive. "Neats!" Suddenly, Nita found that she was trying to dive through a 40-foot thickness of sperm whale. Nita blew in annoyance and let herself float back to the surface again. Kit bobbed up beside her and, with great suddenness and a slam of air, threw off the whale sark. He dog-paddled there in the water, abruptly tiny beside her bulk. "Neats, get out of that for a minute." "Huh? Oh." It was a moment's work to drop the whale shape. Then she was reduced to dog-paddling, too. Kit was treading water a few feet from her, his hair slicked down with the water. He looked strange, tight somehow, as if he were holding on to some idea or feeling very hard. "Neats," he said. "I'm not buying this." Nita stared at him. "Kit," she said finally, "look, there's nothing we can do about it. I've bought it. Literally." "No," Kit said. The word was not an argument, not even defiance, just a simple statement of fact. "Look, Neats, you're the best wizard I've ever worked with." "I'm the only wizard you've ever worked with," Nita said with a lopsided grin. "I'm going to kill you," Kit said, and regretted it instantly. "No need," Nita said. "Kit, why don't you just admit that this time I've got myself into something I can't get out of?" "Unless another wizard gets you out of it." She stared at him. "You loon, you can't." "I know, and it hurts. I feel like I should volunteer, but I just can't." "Good, 'cause you do, and I'll kill you." "That won't work either." He made her own crooked grin back at her. "All for one, remember? We both have to come out of this alive." And he looked away. "Let's go for both," Nita said. Silence. She took a deep breath. "Look, even if we don't both get out of this, I think it's going to be all right. Really." "No," Kit said again, and that was that. Nita just looked at him. "Okay," she said. "Be that way." And she meant it.